Hi there, I am Laina Orlando, and welcome to another episode of A Call for Love, Awakening with A Course in Miracles. One of the reasons I love using the Course in Miracles in my teachings, and also I do it personally for me. I've been a student of the Course for about 8 years, and I've been teaching it now for about 6, but I've been on my spiritual journey for 18 years. And one thing that has become very clear to me that the entire process of awakening that every single person has an opportunity to go through is nothing more than a remembering that every one of us is a manifestation of the divine. We are a soul, a spirit, doesn't matter what you call it. Every single one of us is an aspect of that. We're a piece of that whole puzzle that God, source, spirit, creator, whatever you want to call it is. The Course in Miracles is channeled by Jesus, and it gives us such clear definitions, such clear exercises, absolutely clear as can be instructions on how it is that we can awaken. And everything is broken down into you are either being in alignment with the truth of who you are. You know you're the presence of God, because God is nothing but love. So you are extending love. So you are being the presence of love no matter what. And this is the kind of love that's unconditional, which is the kind of love that God has. God is. Or you have forgotten that you are that love. So there is a call for it. We are in the midst of some crazy times right now. This is the month of May 2020. Now, and it's early on in May 4th, 2020. So the whole world is mesmerized right now with the illusion, and I'm going to call it an illusion because the Course in Miracles is really clear. And in this particular channel, my focus is strictly to speak to the truth as I have come to understand it. And I use the Course in Miracles as what I can point to if you wanted to have a reference that you would want to study. Now, I'm calling it an illusion because it is not, this world that we see is not what God created. In terms of what we have overlaid on this beautiful planet, that it is God's creation, but the world that we see is not God's creation. The world of greed, of destruction, of separation, of haves and have-nots, God did not create that world. As humans, with our ability to use free choice, which is a gift from God, we have been able to make a decision that we can withdraw the love that we are, or we can extend it. When we withdraw the love that we are, we enter into the space of separation. We are in self-protection. Now, you over there, me over here, gives me permission to take care of me, to operate from my reptilian brain, to go into fight or flight, to do whatever needs to be done for me to be safe, and you frankly won't matter. When I operate from the truth, not from the illusion, but from the truth that this planet is something that God created for all of us to experience, for all of us to enjoy, for all of us to be a part of, now, what is there to keep from you? When I know that I am one with you, when I know that we're all one and the same, that we're all in this together, what is there to withhold? What is there to keep away? What is there to protect? That would not enter into the equation. So it's really important to understand that either our mind is totally, completely aligned with the truth of God as God is, and that means God, creator, source, spirit, doesn't matter what we call it. It is the infinite energy that is eternal, and it is what we're all made of. Or we're operating from a mind that has been conditioned over millennia, over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Our mind has been systematically conditioned to believe that all we are is these human beings that you see. We have been conditioned to believe that some have, some don't have, some are better than others. Based on this color or that color, we have been made to be special or not special. Some are aristocrats, kings and queens, and they have more money, and then the rest doesn't. So our minds have been conditioned, even though we were all created on on paradise, frankly. The Garden of Eden, if you want to call it that. And by the way, the Course in Miracles is not a religious text. It is not dogma. You can take from it whatever you want whenever you're ready to receive it, but it is speaking about a truth that is consistent for everybody. There is absolutely no one who can be a leader in A Course in Miracles, the teachings of A Course in Miracles, because they're all designed, channeled by Jesus, to meet each person where they are and remind them that they are equal to one another. So when our minds were conditioned by people who thought that they were different from one another, that some of them were special over others, like a church that gets to dictate what you should believe and shouldn't, and if you don't believe this, you're going to be punished and you're going to be banished to hell, a place that God did not create. A loving God wouldn't create something like that. So our minds have been conditioned to believe in one way of thinking. That way of thinking, the Course in Miracles refers to it as the ego mind. This is all of the thoughts and beliefs that we hold that say, I am other than you, I am better, lesser than. This thinking that has me believe I need to protect myself, and it's also the thinking that has me deny God as God is. Now, in our ego mind, we can worship God, we can be very fanatical in this religion or that religion, we can even be atheists. So the egoic mind can be trained in any which way to believe or deny God. A mind that is in alignment with God knows the one and only God, and it is always expressing the love, the compassion, the kindness, the benevolence, the total and complete forgiveness that the Creator extends to us, because when God created us, it didn't create us to punish us. It created us to love us, and it gave us the power to create for us to love our own creations, to love our, the homes that we create, to love the businesses that we create, to love the children, the music, the whatever it is that we create. But we have been trained out of loving our creations and entering into competition, and we've been systematically conditioned in a world of competition, of lying and cheating and scheming and taking and protecting and pitting this group against that group. So we have been conditioned. Again, this has happened for thousands of years, into believing that power is outside of us. First, it's mother and father that have it, then it's the teacher, the preacher, the government, the media, the police, the judge, the doctor. We have been systematically conditioned into giving away our power. And now, May 4th, 2020, we are in the middle of an existential crisis. The whole world has been brought to its knees by something called the virus. This particular virus, like any virus, is going to do what it does. My focus is not to talk about the virus. I have my own opinions about that. I've been watching plenty of things, and I definitely have a very, very clear knowing about what's going on, because not only do I feel it when I align with God, I sense the truth. Everybody's capable of doing this, but I also listen to a lot of channeled material that is saying the same thing. So I do understand what's going on with the virus itself. However, the purpose of this particular video is to invite you to consider that if you have A Course in Miracles teachings by your side, you're going to be able to make it through this experience a lot more smoothly. That means that you're going to have more peace in your heart when you are operating with the truth. This virus is inviting all of us to kind of unplug. Not all of us, but most of us. Many on the front lines, they're not getting a break. But many are being invited to unplug, to go within, spend some time with the family, spend some time away from the rushing, the day-to-day things, the kinds of things that keep us distracted and help us to continue to solidify our forgetting our alignment with the source of all that is. So our mind is constantly busy, and it is spinning so much information, it doesn't have time to get quiet and go into stillness and align with a source that would like to inspire us, would like to give us a song, would like to give us a new formula, maybe some new medicine. So in the middle of this pandemic, in the middle of this virus, we are being given an opportunity to bring a lot of things that have surfaced because of this situation, have surfaced into our awareness, to bring it into the light of truth. A Course in Miracles says that we're not supposed to take light into the darkness. We're supposed to bring the darkness into the light. What that means. And this is a very loving act. And I am going to share a couple of things that may sound a little crazy, but that's okay, because frankly, the truth today is crazy. We are so used to believing the lies that anything that is truthful does sound crazy and radical. And that's perfectly okay. So I'm going to invite you to take from this what resonates and leave whatever doesn't. It's perfectly okay. You're my brother, you're my sister. I love you no matter what. That does not matter. But the reason the Course says we're to bring the darkness into the light is because if you want to see what's not working, if you want to see where the problems are, you can't go into, let's say the darkness is in a dark cave. You can't go into a dark cave with a little bit of light and hope to be able to see where the problem is. Because there's no way to bring enough light into a dark space to see everything clearly, to be able to see all of the sides, to see all of the angles, and to see what is holding that structure together. But if you dismantle what is in the darkness, if you take that cave and you start breaking it into pieces and you bring the pieces out into the sunlight, you're going to be able to see everything. Everything is going to be clear. You're going to see this is why this was happening. So right now, in the midst of this situation with this virus, what was in the darkness is coming into the light of our awareness. It's impossible to avoid it. The medical world is coming into the light of our awareness. The deals that were done in secret about who has what patent for what medicine, who owns this, who sits on the board of that, how long has this been happening, when did they start testing these things, when did they start creating a vaccine for a potential virus that wasn't even announced to the public. What lab was doing this, what lab was being given money for that, who's giving millions to that situation when apparently it had been banned by one president in one country, but yet money is being sent from that country to another country. Lots of moving parts. And all of those pieces are coming into the light of our awareness for one reason and one reason only, for us to see them clearly and lose our fear over them. However, because we have been used to operating so completely desensitized to our own inner guidance, we're relying on authorities, external authorities. We're relying on the doctor, a mother, father, teacher, preacher to tell us what we should be feeling, to tell us what we should be doing, that in many ways there's a lot of anger that we are being told we can't go do what we're supposed to do. And then we're experiencing anger because they're telling us that now we're supposed to do this, that, or the other. So there's a part of us that we don't mind being told what to do as long as it's comfortable. And then there's a part of us that even if it's uncomfortable, we like to be told what to do so we don't have to think on our own. So it is coming into the light of our awareness that we have some politicians that like to control their constituents, using maybe police force, using extreme measures, drones, or whatever it might be to spy on them. And everything that I'm saying, you can find this on YouTube, you can find it in the media, you can find it in the newspapers. I am telling you things that I've been observing, I've been reading, I've been watching, and all of it is verifiable out there. But that's not the point of my conversation. The point of my conversation is that all of these things that we don't like need to be seen so that we can see clearly what we have been given power to. So when we are told that we're supposed to take vaccines, that we're supposed to accept these vaccines for a virus that frankly, and again, you can verify this on your own, really is not killing any more than the flu kills. But we don't have mandatory vaccines for the flu. Why do we need to have a mandatory vaccine for this particular virus? Well, that's when you begin to put the pieces together that there's been a group of individuals, organizations, the world over, who have been secretly, because that's what happens in the darkness, our egos operate in the darkness, have been planning and plotting things that would eventually come out now that lead then to things that are supposed to happen in the future. When you begin to study the ego, you begin to see that it is very methodical. It is always attempting to do one of two things: either acquire, because it feels like it doesn't have enough, it's got to get, or it protects what it has. But that's really the only two things that the ego does. Because the ego operates from a sense of lack. There's not enough. So it needs more power. It needs more money. It needs more control. It needs more something. It needs more control. It needs more, somebody to control it more, or it needs to be more in control of others. That's just the only way that the ego operates, because it's a part of us, again, that comes from fear. When we're aligned with our soul, on the other hand, we don't need control from others, and we don't need to control others. There is a trust that God has it all under its control. Our work is to receive our inspiration and to be in joyful co-creation with all that is, because we're in alignment with receiving our piece of the puzzle. We are bringing our song, our music, we're the teacher, we're the mom, we're the baker, we're the whatever. Maybe even a pharmaceutical company, because they do some good things. However, when we are not listening to inspiration to be in service through co-creation, we're listening to the ego mind that is in service to itself alone. It needs to get more power. It needs to acquire more things. When we get to a level that you have acquired so much, now it's really not about the money. Then it becomes about absolute and total domination. That's it. What else is there to get? Until eventually there's only two left, and of those two, one is going to win. So systematically, the ego is always intending in being the winner. And whatever happens to the rest does not matter, because the ego does not care about losers. The ego actually loathes losers. And the reason the ego loathes losers is because the ego doesn't ever want to admit that in and of itself, it is seeking to gain, because it is trying desperately to not be a loser. Because our ego mind has convinced us that we're not the divine being that God has created us to be. So while we're in the middle of this situation with this virus, more things are going to come into the surface of our awareness. And this, to me, is a wonderful opportunity to see that there is more than just what meets the eye. We're going to be seeing that there is a total incomplete web of things that were in the darkness. For something like this to be pulled off, you've got pharmaceutical companies involved. You've got people in governmental positions, FDAs, people who do approvals. You've got people in organizations such as the CDC, such as the World Health Organization. You've got doctors in high places. You've got, when it comes to patents and lawyers and judges, there is an incredible system that has been going on for many, many, many years, decades, if not hundreds of years in preparation. You've got universities, you've got centers all over the place, clinical trials that are taking place, data that gets manipulated, things that are happening that are kept from the public because they don't allow for the acquiring of more money. And again, it's all power or money. And all of that is going to seep into the universities and the teachings and into the doctors. And now we're hearing so much about doctors that are not really given a whole lot of information about vaccines when they are in college, some of them that I've been listening to get minimal information, and they basically are trusting that what they're being told is true. So they're not questioning it. They're getting information. They're trying to do what they need to do to become the best doctor that they can be, so they can go out there and do their work. But the thing that happens when we operate from the ego is we're susceptible to corruption. We're susceptible to being bought out. We're susceptible to buying out, because again, it is always operating from the desire to receive for the self alone. Who you step on, who you hurt is automatic collateral damage. That is just part of the process. When you're coming from your essence and you know you're one with all that is, and you have learned the principle specifically that the Course in Miracles teaches, you know that what you do to another, you're doing it to yourself. You know that giving is receiving. So if you're giving good stuff, if you're giving love, you're feeling that. If you're giving hate, you're feeling that. So when our mind is serving the ego mind, we are always going to be dealing with things that don't just happen overnight. It is a system that has been planned for a very long time, because the ego operates with a mind that is filled with history, with information, because it deals with the process of regurgitation. It only knows what it's been taught to it. So it has to have come from another mind. When you're operating with your soul, with your spirit, you're dealing with something fresh and new. It is inspired in this now moment. God does not live in the past, nor is it planning a future. God just is. In the realm of the Creator, there is no time. So during this time that we're inside of, with this virus, we're being called to sit still. Most of us are used to planning, today we're planning for tomorrow. And before we get to tomorrow, we're thinking about yesterday and trying to figure out how we, either repeat it because it was good or avoid it because it was bad. So the egoic mind is so busy thinking about the past and the future, plotting, planning. When that happens, we block creativity. We block anything new because we're in repetitive mode. When we're operating from the essence of who we are, we're allowing something fresh and new that's never been. That's why we don't have the same fingerprints, and you got 8 billion people on the planet right now. That is because the creative source of all that is that unique and that creative. God allows 8 billion of us to be totally unique and different. What does the ego do? It wants 8 billion of us to have the exact same drug. It's treating everybody like it is the same, like it's going to respond exactly the same way. So the ego is all about conforming and doing whatever it takes to box us in, to control us. God, on the other hand, is all about be free, roam, go, do whatever it is that you want to do. Because there is an innate trust that when you are aware that you're one with all that is, you just like nature, you take care of each other. It's a collaborative, cooperative system. There is an innate intelligence that allows for that to happen effortlessly. You don't need a governor. You don't need a president. You don't need anybody in charge when you're coming from the heart. It is a collaborative thing. It is a co-creation of the most beautiful, sublime kind. In nature, we don't have police. In nature, we don't have jails. We don't have judges. We don't have lawyers. We don't have any of that in nature because it is not necessary, because the rule of law comes from God. And it is the same for everybody. You take what you need and you leave the rest alone. When we operate from the human ego, because it's about getting, and you get it and you protect it, we're dividing, subdividing mine, yours, and fighting and arguing. So I title these episodes A Call for Love, Awakening with A Course in Miracles. If you want to be able to get through this situation with peace in your heart, you have got to be willing to do the work that identifies the thoughts that you're thinking that have you believe that it is okay to be afraid. Look at what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of the vaccine? Are you afraid of the doctor? Are you afraid of not having a job? Are you afraid of not having enough money? Are you afraid of, maybe you're in an abusive situation and you're going to be hurt again today because you're stuck with somebody who might be abusive. All of the things that happen on the external are opportunities for us to understand what's going on the internal. While we are in the midst of fears, while we're in the midst of things that feel very dark, the only way to be able to deal with them, according to the Course in Miracles, is to bring them into the light of your awareness. What is it that I'm afraid of? How did I get into this situation? What are the things that happened over time that put me in this moment in time dealing with this? Because it is, I'm not going to pretend that this is an overnight process. It is not. For most people, this takes lifetimes, and in this lifetime, the process is accelerating, but it still can take decades to clean up the stinking thinking. The mind that has been habitually believing I'm not good enough or I'm better than anybody else, that habit of thinking has been ingrained over a very, very long time, and it's going to take time to see what that is. But we have to bring that darkness, and inside of us, the darkness is what is kept in secret. Well, we don't want anybody else to know that I'm scared, that I'm angry, that I'm jealous, that I'm not good enough, that I'm better than. All of those thoughts that are being repeated in our mind, we need to bring them into the light of our awareness, because there is no way to allow ourselves to make a new choice, to let go of an old way of doing things and to accept the eternal way of doing things until we see it clearly with the light of our awareness. By that, I mean, when you say, what does she mean by the light of our awareness? You look at it, you become aware of it. You become consciously aware of the thoughts that you're thinking that cause you to feel happy or sad. Because every thought activates a feeling. And that's what this journey is leading you to realize, that you wouldn't feel bad. You wouldn't feel trapped. You wouldn't feel angry. You wouldn't feel less than or better than. You wouldn't feel limited. You wouldn't feel like you have to go take something from somebody else and control somebody else if you didn't have a thought that preceded that feeling. And that thought comes from a sense of identity, a sense of self that we pick up in childhood. Who we think we are stems from our childhood experiences. So there is a lot of work that has to be done. But a call for love means that if you're not loving what is going on in your life right now, if you're not loving what's going on inside of you right now, it is calling for you to let yourself love yourself enough to sit down and take an inventory of all that has been in darkness. Just as we have to take an inventory of what's happening out there in the world so we can clearly see the things that are just not okay, we need to take an inventory of the beliefs that we hold about ourselves and others that are simply not okay. When you think that you're not good enough, of course you're going to suffer. You're going to try to overcompensate. You're going to become a people pleaser. You're going to become a bully and step all over everybody. You're going to be aggressive, or you're going to be passive aggressive, simply because you're believing something that you picked up along the way. You learned it from somebody else, but it is not true according to how God created you, because every one of us was created in the image of the Creator with the same ability, each and every one of us, to be happy. But we get taught out of that happiness when we get conditioned into competition, and that starts at a very young age. So I'm going to leave you with this. A Course in Miracles is an invitation for anybody who's ready. When the students are ready, the teachers appear, and the Course in Miracles is the most profound teacher I've ever known. To let yourself sit down and write out the things that scare you. Become aware of what's in your mind. Let everything that's in the darkness inside of the recesses of your, the chatter that goes on in your head. We don't necessarily really know what's going on in our head, even if we know that there's chatter and there's anxiety, until we write it down. We have to make what was dark be brought into the light. We need to make what was unconscious conscious. The way to heal all of these things, the way to shift all of these things, is you have to accept that it is what is happening, so you don't spend your energy pushing against it. When you can accept it, okay, this is what it is. I've got anxiety going on. They're trying to create a vaccine to vaccinate the whole world, and they're trying to force this. And I can see that they had been plotting this for a while. I can see that there are some things that have to do with corruption that have been going on. Let me accept it. It is what it is. Because if you don't accept what it is, you're going to be using your energy to try to fight that. If you're in fighting mode, you're not in receptive mode. And to be receptive means that you have to be willing to recognize that there is a part of you that has power to change things. Because that's one of the most beautiful things about this journey of awakening, is to recognize how powerful you truly are. You are a magnificent being, powerful beyond measure, unaware that you've been conditioned to give your power away to others. And the only way you're going to recognize your power is when you begin to choose what you believe about yourself and others. And as you change what you believe, you begin to feel differently. The more you feel at peace, at ease, because you're changing your thoughts about yourself, the more you're going to feel more and more empowered. But none of that is going to happen without you answering the call for love from your own self. I hope this has been helpful. Come back to my channel, like my channel, subscribe. I'm going to start doing a lot more videos. I just feel called that this is a time for me to share what I have learned to help humanity move through what is happening. We have just, we're hitting the tip of the iceberg. This is the beginning of 2020. We have an entire decade of some pretty challenging things, specifically the rest of this year and the next. Some really challenging things that are going to come into the light of our awareness that have been happening for thousands of years, but we were either kept from seeing it, or when we saw it, we were told that we were making it up or that it was a conspiracy. But it is going to be coming into the light of our awareness with a lot of evidence that you won't be able to say no to it. So I'm creating this channel, specifically this series in this playlist, A Call for Love, to give you a place to come and find some information that will assist you with your transformation. You have to transform your mind. You have to first renew it. You got to have new information in it. Renew the mind with new information, then do the work of the integration of the truth of who you are according to God, and then experience the transformation of being your own sovereign being as God created you. And by the way, to me, God is the most loving, beautiful essence that I've ever known. I grew up Catholic, I grew up religious, but I do not subscribe to any organized religion whatsoever. I only subscribe to the fact that God is love. As Jesus taught, God is love, and so am I, and so are you. Thanks a bunch, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But like I said, subscribe to my channel, hit the like button so you'll get the announcements for when I put another video, and come here often and share this with your friends. Let's help everyone remember that they can absolutely call for love and know what to do to receive that. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.